One. The magic of television comes to you from the vodcast studios. Look at what we have for fancy, shiny graphics. And it's Mr. Tim Wenner live on the vodcast. Tim, how are you this afternoon?
I'm great. How are you doing, Kelly?
It's sunny and 46. Did I say that already?
Is it? No.
Yeah, I
As
think
you can
it's.
see, I keep my shades closed behind me so that way I can focus on work. But it's nice to know it's worth getting out.
I am looking out my front window and it is perfectly sunny and looks like a great, I'm going to call it late March, April kind of day.
Yeah. I
But it's
experienced my
February.
first ice quake last weekend. I
What
was
was that like on the lake?
on Leech. Yeah, I was on a sleeper house on Leech, and there was a big ridge that developed offshore, and the entire house shifted about 2 feet.
Really?
Yeah, that was a
Did
little
you all
scary.
run out? Was it like a I'm turning my sound off on my phone here. Um, was it like an earthquake where everybody is startled and you're all running for the
Yeah,
door for unknown reason?
it kind of felt that way. Yeah, it was. I've never been in an earthquake, but I imagine that's a little bit what it feels like when the whole structure moves.
Did you guys run for the door or not?
We didn't because I was watching my electronics trying to see if a fish was going to bite, but we did
Yeah.
end up cutting our trip short because they Leech Lake closed all the public accesses and decided this season is just not going to work out as planned. So they're kind of
Well,
shutting things down for the year already.
February 15th or something, they're not keeping people off of the big lakes in the north. That's
Yeah,
pretty
it's crazy.
remarkable.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think people who are watching this from the south can't probably imagine just how different it is for us to not be able to drive our cars and semis and trucks on our lakes in
right.
February.
Yeah, it is
But
bitter.
yeah, it's been quite a different year. So it rained every month. I didn't realize this. It also rained every month last year.
Really.
Every
Okay.
month last year, so including December, January, February, and March. Of course, we got rain in every month,
Hmm.
which was the first time on record in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Wow.
So now you know something from
No.
meteorologist Ken Bartlow. Okay, we've learned
Hey,
something. Yeah. So Tim, tell me about cash reconciliation. The what you have a software tool that you and we've developed along with a line of hospitals and clinics many years back, and now it's at
yeah.
um, uh, 12 or 15
Yeah,
great
we're
healthcare
hitting our
organizations.
15-year anniversary this year. So we've been doing this. We've been at it for 15 years. Our tool is called CARS. We also have a cloud version called Beanware. And what it does for healthcare providers is it automates the reconciliation between all of the cash-related transactions in the bank. It matches those up with the remittances that are coming in from all of the insurance payers so that they can automatically validate that those 835s or ERAs have been funded in the bank before they're applied to patient accounts. We make sure that those remittances get to the right systems. So all of the different billing systems that our clients use, we split that remittance data so that it can be applied automatically to the right place and the right time as quickly as possible to try to avoid any unnecessary follow-up or any inaccurate patient statements that might go out in the mail or electronically as they do often these days. And it saves a lot of manual legwork for these providers who are really trying to run lean organizations in terms of the human resources that are required to run the administrative parts of the business. So both for revenue cycle and for the accounting and treasury folks, it ensures that everything that's being applied to patient accounts has been funded in the bank, make sure that it all reconciles to what's being booked to the general ledger, and provides just a lot of automation around those processes so they can realize a reduction in force that's needed to do what used to be a manual process along all those areas.
And where does the cash come from? Is it just at the point of sale, or like in a hospital and clinic, for example? Like, where does cash? Who
Yeah.
cash today?
It comes in a variety of sources. So the the predominant source is going to be those claim payments that are coming in from your insurance payers, Blue Cross, Medicare, et cetera. And those can be paid electronically. They can be paid by check, by mail. A lot of insurance companies, the smaller groups, are actually paying by virtual credit card now as well. So tracking those various sources of payments, being able to capture that data as it's being deposited from those different sources, but also you do have those point of service payments as well. You have patients that are coming in paying by cash, check, credit card. You have payments that are coming in by mail, payments that are being made over the phone. So it can come from a myriad of places, and that's what makes it difficult. Is you do have a lot of sources where those payments are coming into the organization. So to be able to get your arms around that, capture all of that data, and be able to present that not only for reconciliation and for analysis, but to be able to automatically match that up to the correct patient accounts and make sure that everything's being applied timely and accurately. That's where a lot of the challenge comes in, because it does get complicated very quickly.
Do hospitals and clinics have like parking lots, or do they?
Absolutely.
So are they taking cash from all those different
Yeah.
areas and then trying to reconcile that, or does the app do that for them?
That's another good point. It's not just the patient related claim payment information. It's parking ramps, it's cafeterias, it's gift shops, really anywhere that a payment could come in, and also payments going out. And so as we're capturing that cash information, we're also accounting for payments that are being made to vendors or fees that are being charged by banks or credit card processors. So it's both the debits and the credits that are coming into those accounts, and reconciling all of those disparate points of service. So that's a good point. All of the non-patient related cash is being tracked and reconciled within the system as well.
So does our CARS and Beanware product automate that process of payment and provide reporting, any kind of reporting along with it, or is it just reconciling the cash and the revenue cycle automation?
Yeah, it has all of the reporting available for analysis. All of the data can be taken out of the system and put into a spreadsheet where you can run pivot tables or whatever you need to do to analyze that data. Also providing information so that you can do trending or cash forecasting on what's coming in and what is expected to come into an organization. So all of that information is available throughout the tool. So that again, the goal is not only to automate those manual processes, but to make that data prevalent so that you can harness kind of the power of being able to analyze that information and to evaluate trends or identify any issues that might be arising. If, for example, your cash flow is decreasing, you can be able to dig in and see where are those sources of payments coming in. Are there certain payers that are behind, or are there other trends that need to be paid attention to?
This sounds like something that CFOs would be primarily involved with. It is the CIO, the person who is saying, "Hey, we need this," or are there other people in the accounting and cash reconciliation chain that end up driving this? Who ends up really being excited
Yeah,
about the product coming in?
I think the CFO gets excited because you can balance cash, and that seems like a simple proposition, but in many cases, because of the complicated nature, most organizations without a tool are noticing large swings from month to month on, could be millions of dollars that they're not able to tie out to the penny as they'd like to. And so as they go through their audit processes for year-end audit, they're often challenged to provide the evidence that that cash is being reconciled on a month-to-month basis with the bank. More anecdotally, just talked to a newer client today, and for the first time, they were able to go through their annual audit with really no exercise or extra effort needed around proving those cash processes are in place, and they have tight cash control and reconciliation to the bank. That was a huge win for them. Not only the cost savings due to staff reduction, but just the peace of mind and the the ability to balance day to day, month to month, the cash receipts and cash transactions within the organization. So it's the CFO that gets excited because the problem gets eliminated. The folks that are more hands-on, depending on the size of the organization, could be either VP directors of revenue cycle, treasury, finance. Those are usually our key contacts and stakeholders that we're working with as we're implementing.
Okay. And what does a common environment look like when you step into an environment that doesn't have our cash reconciliation, revenue cycle automation product already implemented? What does the environment typically look like?
You're usually seeing folks do their best with multiple spreadsheets, very complicated, convoluted Excel spreadsheets where they're shared between departments trying to communicate information. There are challenges with that, in terms of accessing the data and sharing the data between different partners. One of the things that I think helps organizations quite a bit is by having everything in a central location online with CARS or Beanware. You can have all those entities playing in the same sandbox, sharing the same information, able to attach documentation for backup, able to assign work or create what we call work assignments in the system. If there's somebody else that needs to participate in reconciling a particular source of payment, you can send that information over to that other party. They're not, especially as we're virtual today, you're not seeing the ability to just facilitate walking over to someone's desk and having a conversation. So the ability to electronically share all that information between different departments, between different areas and an organization can be invaluable. So replacing all those manual processes and spreadsheets that more than likely exist in almost all of those provider groups today, and harnessing again the ability to capture that automatically and share that across the entire organization.
Sure. And from a size perspective, it seems like we're at Alina, obviously. We're at Sanford, we're at Baptist. So we're at huge uh, facilities that have, the regional, throughout multiple states or,
Mm-hmm.
regions of the country. How small, like, is it primarily the big hospitals that are using it, or who's the target that can benefit
Yeah.
from?
Great question. I think with with our traditional solution, it was the larger providers that had that built-in ROI, and that part of that was just due to their ability to absorb the IT component of the solution. But part of why we introduced Beanware a couple of years ago is to provide a solution for those smaller providers as well, something that can be scalable and hosted in a cloud environment that doesn't require the internal infrastructure that CARS might. So the size of the provider can be anywhere from, a multi-billion-dollar organization like Alina or Sanford, but we've also scaled down to a group that has just a handful of clinics or maybe a single regional hospital facility. They still experience those pain points on a smaller scale and can still realize the ROI from being able to automate those processes that we spoke about earlier. So really, we've expanded the scope of what we can provide to fit virtually any size of organization.
Okay. So it's only at hospitals and clinics. That's the groups that are enjoying the benefit of it right now. I feel like I'm talking like it's an infomercial today.
Yeah.
I
Well,
feel very
it's interesting because we talk about hospitals and clinics, and again that landscape has changed as well. We're implementing with a provider right now that's an entirely virtual serverless environment. So they're providing online services, which, as you know, e-visits have been on the horizon for a long time, and they're becoming more and more prevalent, both for primary care and for mental health providers. So we're implementing with a client right now that has no brick and mortar. They're all virtual, but that doesn't. They may not have the point of service issues that we talked about earlier with people walking up with cash and check and credit card in hand, but they still have all those electronic payments that need to be reconciled with both the providers and their patients. So it isn't necessarily even limited to hospitals and clinics anymore. It's healthcare in general,
okay.
and we have seen a lot more movement and need in that mental health space, especially
Huh.
as those providers and that landscape grows.
Did you see, this is unrelated. Did you see that the NBA moved the Timberwolves and Bucks game back to 9 p.m. on Friday?
Is that because there's so much interest in the Timberwolves this
Uh,
year?
apparently there's that much interest in the Timberwolves and the Bucks game, and I have tickets for that game with my friend,
Wow,
and
that's going to be great.
it's going to be great, and it's going to be late, and
Speaking
that's
of Minnesota sports trends, did you see the Wild set the all-time franchise record for goals scored for and against last night?
I saw they scored 17, and I was wondering if it was some sort of record.
Yeah, they had 2 hat tricks on the Wild and a hat trick on Vancouver as well. So 3 hat tricks
I
in the game.
I was wondering if there was no defense played. I didn't watch the game, but I watched the highlights. It's like an all-star game when you're
Yeah,
scoring 17.
yeah. Goaltender stats definitely took a hit last night.
Tom Newman would not be happy watching that game.
No, probably not.
Tim
Mike,
Wenner, it's always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for your time.
thank you, Kelly. Great to touch base and catch up.
For everybody else out there, you are watching the Kelly Wendland Vodcast.